everybody. Welcome back to the How to Podcast series, where I get to talk to my best podcasting friends, which is great. And we get to talk podcasting. You're going to learn a lot from my guest today. She's returning after 2 years out into the wilderness of podcasting. She's come back with everything she's learned and all of her trophies. And it's amazing to see somebody do so well in podcasting and love it and serve their community so well. Fatima Bey is one of those amazing people. If you've never met this person, you're going to fall in love with her the moment you hear her voice. You're going to love her podcast. And for anybody that's designing a website for your podcast, I'm sending you to Fatima Bey's website because you are going to see things that I don't see on other websites because this person pours her heart into her community and shows up in such spectacular ways. Every time I speak to this person, I'm inspired. I have homework to do. And it just shows that you can learn so much when you just listen to what other people are doing, because Fatima does it so well. Fatima, welcome back as my guest co-host. So glad to see you again. Welcome back to the show.
And thank you for having me. First off, I want to say I was sneaky. The real reason I came on was to tell y'all how good Dave is. You see, okay. I am successful in large part because of a lot of advice that I've gotten from this man. He does a lot for free and he puts his heart into it. I really genuinely appreciate it. There's so many things that I have done, not just with my podcast, but that I've inserted and grown within all the branches of my brand and my business. You planted the seed, for you guys listening. When you hear Dave say stuff, just consider it seeds, water it, and let it grow, because that is what has happened with me on so many levels. So let's talk about some of those levels. Let's go. What I have learned over the past 2 years is a whole lot. So when I started my first episode, the day of recording, what is today's date? August 26, 2025.
Yeah.
My first episode aired August 15th, 2023. So we're at about the 2-year anniversary. So I'm over 100 episodes now. Wow. And I'm consistently once a week. I've only not aired my podcast twice in the past 2 years. I took a break and made an announcement that I'm taking a break. And I feel like that's okay. We should do that once in a while. But over the past 2 years, I've learned a lot. And I'm saying this because I want other podcasters to be encouraged and to hear, my journey and see what resonates. So when I started my podcast, I was already organized. And Dave had me on here right after I started, actually. I think I was only maybe 6 months into it. I don't remember. But I've learned, oh my gosh, and I've learned and grown so much. Okay, first of all, let me tell you this. As of this moment, in 2025, so far, my podcast, which is called MindShift Power Podcast, has been put on 9 top podcast lists. And one of them is by FeedSpot, which, everybody in the world knows that's a big deal. For FeedSpot, it was top 10 teen podcasts in the world. For those of you who don't know, my podcast is focused on teens. It's international. And it's focused on teens and all of the issues around them. So sometimes it focuses on the adults who work with teens as well. So anyway, I was on their top 10 list and I was number 4 on that list. Let me tell you, I worked my behind off for this podcast. And I was so elated to see that I got put on a top podcast list. And I didn't at the time yet realize what a big deal it was to be on that list from FeedSpot. That's kind of like being put on the people's top 10 sexiest people in the world list, which they haven't gotten to me yet, but they'll get there.
It's coming.
Right? So it's like that level within the media world. So I quickly learned that and I was like, oh my God. And then not only was I on this list, I would have been happy at number 10. Heck, I would have been happy at number 11. But I was at number 4. I was like, what? I was like, number 4, that's high up on a list. I was like, wow. But now it's a badge of honor. Oh, it's on my website. I tell everybody. Because, I've worked really hard for it. But my point in saying that is not just to say, oh, look how great I am. I worked very hard to get to the point to be able to say others are recognizing me. And for those of you listening right now, there's so many of you that have good content, you have good stuff to say. You either hold back on us, which is so bad, and
Mm.
you water down what you have to say, which is so bad. And then because you don't get the numbers that you think you're supposed to have, you quit. Or because you feel
Right.
like you're not getting the attention you want, whatever the reason is for you, you quit. Something I have learned, and I know, Dave, you know this by heart, I did not realize that most podcasts don't make it past 50 episodes.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, what? I remember Buzzsprout sending me a congratulations letter. You've made it past 50. I was like, why is that a big deal? I didn't get it because I was just like, well, of course I'm not going to stop. That doesn't make sense. That's just how I think. But because when I started this, I want to explain to you why I'm still going strong with it and why I believe I'm going to be in an even better position a year from now because I refuse to quit. Podcasting is not easy. You know, if y'all do it, you know, it's not easy. It can be difficult. And being consistent is probably the hardest part, actually, I think. Being consistent, I would say, is the hardest part, especially if you have family, you have another job. It's a side job in and of itself, you know, and not everybody has the time and dedication to put towards it that I have. I totally understand that, which is why there are plenty of tools out there to help you to speed that process up. Dave talks about them all the time, and he's got plenty of them on his website. And but being consistent is how you get to that point. How did I get to the point when I don't do my podcast to get numbers, at least not in the traditional sense, not in that way. I'm not up there going, hey, look at me, put me on your best list. I didn't ask to be put on any of those lists. They found me. I didn't find them.
Nice.
And, you know, it's because I'm consistent and putting out quality content consistently. That's it. That's mostly what you need. Even if my sound wasn't that great, well, not too bad, but even my sound wasn't perfect, and I don't think it's always been perfect. And unfortunately, sometimes it's not going to be perfect because I interview people all over the world who don't always have reliable, stable internet. And so, and they can't always get as quiet as the places they need. But the quality of conversation is more important than the sound. So I'll deal with it. I'll do the best I can, but I'll deal with it. But anyway, many of you listeners, sometimes for those of you listening right now who are podcasting, you can't be successful at what you give up on. You absolutely have to be. But here's the key thing that makes me and other podcasters like me different from most. What's the reason you're podcasting in the first damn place? For real.
Come on.
I started off, my podcast is focused on youth. My podcast started off as I want to bridge the gap between the youth, the teenagers at the time of the U.S. and Canada, and the adults who create programs and laws for them and the parents. I wanted to bridge the gap between them and the adults who are always around them. Well, now I've gone international. I forget when I went international. I think it was late last year or earlier this year. I've gone international. It was earlier this year. And now I feature voices from all over the world. Still team focused. That's not changing. Why do I do my podcast? Dave, can you tell the audience why I do my podcast?
Well, I remember the early conversations around your show and your passion for youth.
Yes.
And your passion for your audience. That's been evident from day one. You knew who you were talking to and who you wanted to reach. I want you to explain to them why it's so important to talk to these kids.
Yes.
Because that came through from the very first time I met you.
I wanted them to hear that from you because I can say it, but hearing it from the person who received it, I think it's different. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right.
Why do I do it? I do it because I do this podcast, not because I'm bored, and I'm not even doing it to build my brand. I'm a MindShift coach. I coach people. I do group sessions. I do speeches. I do speaking engagements. I do live. I do a live every Monday, and I talk about different things.
I know. That's cool. I like that.
And I do that, again, because of Dave. For real. I do that because of you, because I've been told to do it for a long time. But you said something to me right at the right moment during one of your, one of the, what do you call them? The meetup podcast.
Or meetups?
One of the meetups that we had. And you and there was another Dave there were saying the same thing to me at the same time, and it just hit at the right moment. And I started doing lives at the end of last year because of it. And it might have been November when you said it to me. In December, I started my
Right.
lives.
Yeah.
And now I made
And Dave and I both showed up for your first live.
you know
The
what? I
two of
forgot
us were
about that.
there.
You did.
Yeah.
You really
Both
did.
of us were there.
You
Yeah.
guys
We
were there.
want you
You're
to
like,
see.
yeah. I was like, see,
Come on, go.
this is what
good.
I love.
Okay.
Real genuine support.
Okay.
Not people who
Yeah.
just say stuff and don't do it. But anyway, I'm gonna back up to what I was saying. I started talking about lives and got excited.
Yeah.
So the reason why I do the podcast isn't just so that I can get numbers or be seen. It's about the impact. I'm not
Yeah.
that interested in being impressive. Impressive to who? For what? I'm interested in being impactful because that is more impressive. Most people don't think
Right.
about it that way. I'm interested in
Yep.
being impactful. So if I have an episode that can change a life, mission accomplished, man. So my point in saying all of that for you listeners who are podcasters, and maybe you're thinking about starting a podcast, what is your, as Dave would say it, what is your why? I'm going to say,
Yeah.
what the hell are you doing it for? That's what team speak.
Come on, let's go.
For a different way to say it. What the hell are you
Yeah.
doing it for? And I say it that
Yeah.
way because if I say it with an attitude like that, you respond differently than a nice way that Dave would say it. But you need to talk to yourself like that. I don't mean beat yourself up. I mean be real in your face. Like, what is the drive?
Right.
Because that might stir up the drive in you. That's why I say it that way.
Yeah.
Like, what the
Yeah.
hell are you doing it for? Well, now you feel defensive. Well, I'm doing it because I want to help people with AI so they can have better jobs in the future. Okay, so now we know your why because I just heard your passion. You know what I'm saying? So sometimes you
Right.
have to, I will say things like that. And then I'll also say it just as nice and sweet as Dave will say it. But there's, I say things, I'll say it in both ways at different times, but I do it that way on purpose because it will get different responses from different people. But at the end of the day, what I want people to do is rise up and live out their passion and live out their purpose. So your podcast, if you are just doing it so that you can breathe on a microphone or say, I did some stuff, well, you probably aren't going to go very far. I'm going to be honest with you. You're not going to go very far because that's not a driver. You've got no
Right.
gas in your tank. You got a beautiful car that's empty. You need gas to drive. What's your gas?
Come on.
What's your gas? You know what I mean?
Keep going, Fatima. Keep going.
And a lot of times we don't think about that. Now, what I want to say also, I want to make sure I give some balance with that statement. Sometimes we always say, just get started, which is true. Dave preaches it all the time. Just get started, because he wants to see everybody have podcasts and get out there and do. He wants to see everybody spread some gems because there are a lot of people with covered up gems out
Yeah.
there, and I completely agree.
Right.
However, get started, yes, but make sure you find that passion. You don't just keep going, running on fumes.
Right.
Why do you want to get started? Like, what's your real passion? What's the real reason? And my podcast, I talk about real serious stuff. I think I have an episode that's called Rape. Nothing else, just the word rape. I made it a 2-part episode because obviously that's a heavy topic. So I split it up into two episodes. They came out at the same time. I didn't spread them, which is what a lot of people do. But I think that was dragging it out too much. So I put them at the same time so you could listen to it in doses. It was an excellent episode, but obviously not an easy one to listen to. I talk about stuff that is very hard hitting. I'm kind of like the Black Barbara Walters of 2025 in a way, in that Barbara Walters was known for going into the areas and talking to people and talking about things that were taboo at the time, or oh my God, I'm if it's a difficult conversation, I'm probably going to go after it. And here's the reason: it's not for shock value, because if you listen to my episodes, I'm not about shock value. I'm about impact. If we need to talk about it, if we're trying to avoid a topic, it's because we need to talk about it. It's because it's uncomfortable. For me and my podcast, and for others, it's going to be different because some people talk about more lightweight stuff because that's their focus. But the principle behind what works is going to be the same. So for me, I'm looking to make an impact on who? On the teenagers of the world. and the teenagers of the world who are now in adult bodies. Because mentally, they're still 13.
Right.
That's half of your adults right now. So, yes, my podcast is for teens, but who's it really for? I have evil plans. So, no, but really, it's talking about different issues. So anyway, I really focus on the issues that I know that are real issues for people. I would probably say the most, like, whoa, I get this response from people when I tell them the name of this episode is, the name of this episode is, My Children Were Molested Right Under My Nose. I don't think you can get any more sensitive than that. And it was it was an episode that was definitely deep, but valuable. So, but my point is, I don't just talk about fluff and stuff. I offer value. And it doesn't matter if your podcast is about bows and arrows. Offer values to those who use and are a sportsman with bows and arrows. And there are podcasts out there literally like that. Your focus is on Shih Tzu dogs. That's all you talk about is everything Shih Tzus. So offer value to them. Don't just tell them, make sure you brush their hair. Well, yeah, they know that already. So talk about the different micro things that you have to deal with. And that's one of the key things I think a lot of podcasters don't always think about. Focus on micro topics. You'll have more content. And I'm sure you've said this at some point, Dave. Focus on micro topics. It really matters. So what I do is, like, for example, I talk about mental health and abuse a lot. Why? Number one issue for youth across the world. I'm sorry, for humans across the world.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk about it. I talk about careers and education as well, because that affects the youth. But if you go between the two, I would say maybe 60-40, is 60 sitting on the mental health / abuse. I'm generalizing it category. Why do I talk about that? Because that is the most unspoken things that we're not dealing with that are kicking us in the ass. You know, when it's everything we're not dealing with, it's already hitting us over the head in life.
Right.
It's called bad relationship over and over again. The same guy with different body. The same girl in a different set of jeans. And we keep going through the same thing over and over again. But back to podcasting.
So for you, Fatima, what has changed for you? How has your mind shifted as a podcaster? Here, use the name of your show. How's your mind shifted in podcasting? What have you started with 2 years ago? And kind of what are some examples of what you've changed over the last 2 years as you've grown as a podcaster?
Yes, a lot of things. I was always organized when I started. I always had a professional email template set up. I'm going to give you some logistical stuff that I did that's different, because I think a lot of people can learn from this. I do this, by the way, if you look at my website, if you look at my online presence, it looks like I have a team of people, but it's just me and all my personalities. So there's about 15 of us. Fatima Bey, Fatima Bey 2, Fatima Bey 3, and we all work really hard. I'm the producer, I'm the host.
Your Christmas party must be a really big party.
It is.
This must be fun.
There's so many mirrors, and we all enjoy it. No, but here's the thing. I started off, I'm not going to stay that way. I'm very soon going to have to change that. But I'm in the process of, and I think your audience can learn from this too. I like to be transparent so people can learn. I'm in the process of making sure that everything's in place so that when I do get an assistant, which will include AI, that everything is ready to handle that. And I'm not still figuring certain things out. There's always going to be a degree of figuring certain things out. There's a learning curve rather for everything. That's normal. But I think it's important to be as wise as we can and how we go about things and not just do them. So I try to be wise in all that I do. So back to your question. When I first started the podcast, I had an email template set up. I used Podio forums. Podio is it's not a CRM platform. I forget. It's kind of like, oh God, what is the name of that? Starts with an A. It's a platform where you have workflows and data.
Okay.
And there's a name for
Yeah.
it that's escaping. We all know the term, and it's just escaping me right
Yeah.
now. But
Yeah. People are yelling at the speaker right now.
they are. They're
Yeah.
like, oh, that's a, and I'll remember after we hang up.
Yeah.
But so I used that. Like I had a process. People filled out a form for Podio. It went into my Podio system. I didn't have to do anything. I would send them a link to fill out the form. I would. I had an email process going back and forth in emails. So now most people don't do this, but I actually have all except for the international adults. All of my guests sign a contract. Anybody from the new, except for international, other countries, I don't care so much because they're not as sue happy as we are here. So Canadian
Yeah.
and U.S. Guests, it's the truth. We're just crazy when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Everybody signs
It's a good hobby.
everybody signs a
Yeah.
contract. It's not anything that's crazy or overwhelming, but it just makes sure that I got your voice and I can use your stuff. I'm just
Yeah.
putting it in plain English.
Yeah.
But I have everybody sign a contract. I started off with that from the get-go. So I have people sign a contract, but this was all done through email. It was a process
Yeah.
that I had in place. Point one, point two, inside Podio, I had and I still have a workflow list, a checklist that is automatically, it's automatically put in place once somebody fills out a form. So once a form is created, there's a checklist that's created. Did you send them a thank you email? Did you blah, blah, blah? And I have this so that I don't forget anything because I'm human and I juggle a lot. So that I did. Well, fast forward to the future. I now have what most TV studios and big media do. I have an onboarding page. So but my onboarding page is not publicly linked intentionally because I vet every guest. I don't just accept everything. I am not a trash can. So I don't just accept everything. And so I literally vet every single guest. And once I've decided that I think you have value, and I'm going to put you on the show, I send them to the guest onboarding page. I have everything set up with that onboarding page so that all I have to do is send you an email, which I have templated inside my email. It's got links to the onboarding page. Everything else you do yourself. So you go there, you fill out the form, you sign the contract, and it takes you to the next step. All the steps are listed. And then you go ahead and set up your schedule, your pre-call or recording, because I give people an option.
Yep.
All of that is automated now. So it takes all of that back and forth out of my hand. It's less frustrating for me and the guest. And also for, some of my guests, they're just as busy as I am. So why not make it easier for them, The easier you make it for your guests, the better guest experience they have. So I'm just giving you one example with details so you can see that logistically I have grown. I started off organized in the first place, but now I have streamlined my organization to a much higher level of functionality. So like that onboarding page, again, you only typically will see that with big media. You don't see it with a one little old me person.
The other thing, Fatima, I wanted to bring up, because you shared this with me, and I think it's brilliant, is when you're talking about your guests and how you always make sure you have the right guests for your audience.
Yes.
You have this hot dog stand principle that I don't hear anybody talk about as kind of a filter for keeping people away from your community that don't bring value.
Yes.
Right. I love that that's your main focus. Everybody that comes on the show, you bring value to my audience. That's why you're here on my show, by the way. You bring value. That's why you're here. So could you explain this? Because I think it's brilliant and I want everyone to steal it and give credit to Fatima Bey. But can you explain how this hot dog stand principle works for the audience so they can use it?
So I have a principle when it comes to the episodes that I have, the topics that I'll talk about. And when it comes to the guests, I use the exact same principles for both. And I keep all of those in mind when I'm looking at people. So I said earlier that I vet every single guest. I'm not exaggerating, and I'm absolutely very serious about it. You could be as famous as hell, and I will reject you from my podcast if I don't feel like you have value to my audience, or you're going to spread because you're going to spread poison, or you're just an airhead, or you're just empty. You got nothing but Cool Whip to offer. So here's what I say. when I look at every guest, because I'm at the point now. Okay, I always want to mention this sidebar. When I first started, this is another detail, and I want your audience to hear this because I want some of them to pat themselves on the back and for them to see this as a goal as well. When I started my podcast, I was reaching out looking for guests, right? As we all do when we start a podcast.
Yep.
I am now at the point where I have lists of people waiting for my response as to whether or not they can be on my podcast. I get emails requesting to be on my podcast literally every single day. You know that you have moved up in ranks when you have agents reaching out to you, not just people.
Yeah.
I have both, and probably always will have both, but I don't look at how big your name is, whether or not you're famous, or whether or not you're just an everyday person. If you have value to offer, it's on. As long as you're not a crackhead, you're just gonna just be a little crazy.
Yeah.
But I look for that too. But you know what I mean. I look for people that can offer value. So here's my standard. This is the analogy I was telling Dave earlier that I use. So my podcast is a restaurant. I would like it to be a 5-star restaurant. I'd like to treat it as a 5-star restaurant. If you go to a restaurant, you're not expecting hot dogs and chips. You're expecting food, steak and potatoes, pasta, big old salad with everything in it, whatever it is for you. Shrimp, I like shrimp. So you're expecting food. You're not expecting a hot dog stand.
Right.
A hot dog stand, while I do love hot dogs, let's be real, hot dogs are not food. There's absolutely nothing nutritious in food.
People.
Let's be real.
There goes my sponsorship because I had hot dogs as a sponsor for this podcast. Thanks, Fatima. Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying don't buy hot dogs because I eat them too. I eat them too, but they have their place. They're quick food.
Yeah.
They're not you can't live off of hot dogs, you'll die. They're there for, they're great at fairs, they're great at barbecues and cookouts, they're great for a quick snack meal, but don't mistake it as food. A steak, potato, no matter which way you cook it, some rice, that's food. So the way I see it is my podcast is a restaurant. When I look at my guests and I look at the topics I want to talk about, I see them as a plate of food versus a hot dog. When I look at a guest, is this guest, do I see a plate of food or do I see hot dogs hanging out their pocket? If I see hot dogs hanging out their pocket, no thank you. And I actually will respond and tell them no thank you. Like most people just ignore them. I kind of felt bad about doing that because I don't like when people do that to me. So I actually created a template email that I send when I'm rejecting someone. I actually send rejection emails all the time now. And most people don't bother to do that. But if you make it a template, then it's not hard work for you. But I think it's only fair.
Yeah.
I think it's only fair to do that. You never know what dialogue might come out of that and what people might learn. But it also helps you to keep from getting spammed because if agents know that this old crotchety person can't relate to teens is not going to be on my show, then they know not to bring those people to me.
Yeah. Right.
And so I look at every guest and say, okay, do they have food? Do they offer food? Or is it just hot dogs? This is not a hot dog stand. I'm not talking about a hot dog restaurant because those do exist. That's a different thing because they're gourmet hot dogs and they're a whole nother level. And they are a restaurant because they also usually offer more hot dogs. I'm just talking about as a general principle. A hot dog stand, again, is quick food. It's not nutrients. I am not here to be impressive. I am here to be impactful. So if you can't offer that, then you're not going to be a guest on my show. I don't care if you're Oprah. I don't care if you're Beyonce. I don't care if you're Gary Vee, and I love him. Now, he would be on my show because he would offer. If he would ever be willing to be, he would offer real, actual, tangible advice that people can use and implement and has value. Yeah. But just because someone is famous, they're a famous singer. Okay, that's nice. But what? Okay, that's nice. You just told me all the frosting. I don't see any plate on your food on your plate. What you got to offer?
Yeah.
You know, it's like, what are you offering? And this is something I got to address. This is something I find actually kind of frustrating that I get a lot. Just because you wrote a book does not mean that we care. I'm just going to say it out loud. Just because you wrote a book, so what? People come out with books every 12 seconds. Big deal. I have people who are authors on all the time. but it's not because they're an author. It's because we weave in the book into the conversation, but I actually rarely make the conversation about the book unless they're like a novelist. Obviously, that's different. But
Yeah.
and I've only had 2 people on that are novelists. I stay away from people that I'm an author. I just wrote a book. I'm just like, I'm not impressed yet. Even if it's a great book. If it's a great book, then let's talk about one of the contents in the book, and let's talk about that, and then it's easier to sell your book. Here's the other thing I look at that I have never myself. Maybe you have, Dave, because you've talked to more podcasters. I have personally not once heard this from another podcaster. One of the reasons I'm picky about who I will have on my podcast is not just what do they have to say. The other thing I look at is, am I willing to support them? Because you are now on my podcast. And if you...
Your seal of approval.
Yeah, as if you come off as a crazy cuckoo, then guess what? Fatima don't have no standards. And that's not, and that's not what I'm trying to put out there. I do have very high standards. Matter of fact, it bothers some people, but I'm okay with that. Fall away. So, I look at, do I want to support this person? But here's my other objective with my podcast. I'm there to support the teens. My other objective as a entrepreneur, as a small business owner, I genuinely love to promote other people who are doing good in the world. So someone who's a small timer, they're writing their first book, nobody knows who they are, I might have them on the show. Not because they're going to bring numbers of squirrel brains, but that's another thing. I call them squirrel brains. People that just follow the next shiny object. They're not real followers.
Yeah.
I don't care about them. I'm not interested in attracting them. But they have value because they just wrote this book and it's about their life, and their life is interesting, and their life relates to a lot of teens around the world, and they got something to say. I just did an interview like that yesterday. I can't wait for her to come out. And I look at, am I willing to promote this person? And I'll give you an example. If they're on my show, matter of fact, if they get to a point where they're actually talking to me, I've already decided that the answer is yes, because they're not even going to meet me unless I've already decided that they have value and want to put them on the show. And some people don't know that until they start talking to me during the pre-call. They're like, oh, wow, well, thanks. And because I want them to know I see value in you, and that's why I have you on the show. What that does is it lets them know what my mindset is, but it also boosts their ego. And that boosts the energy of the interview. There's strategy behind everything, So when you have, I'll give an example of someone that I had on, that I didn't have on. This girl, kind of in the beginning of her coaching career. And again, I'm okay with that. I'm not looking for people that are at the top of their game. I also want people that's beginning, because that's relatable too, And again, I like to promote people that I think have something good to say that could help people. I don't have to agree with everything about them. And I want to say that to your audience as well. You don't need everybody to agree with you. I don't agree with everything, every single guest, everything's about everything. If that was the case, I'd be having a podcast all by myself every day. So that would never happen. But, as long as they have a good message that adds value, they have nutritious,
yeah. There you go.
Nutrient-rich, nutritious food on their plate. Yeah. I'm all for it. I will help you serve it. I had a girl that was going to be a guest on my podcast. And this is back before I had the onboarding page that I now have, which I only did that earlier this year. So that's a little bit newer. But I was going to interview her, and at the time I made everybody have a pre-call, because what I don't do, which most podcasters do, is they just get on and start interviewing people with no preparation, no prior conversation. Yeah. I strongly disagree with that. I strongly disagree with that. It is, for some people, I just wing it, and you might do okay doing that, but you'll never do your best, because some of those people that do okay could be far more amazing if they prepped. And they get away with winging it. But I'm like, man, you just a dusty diamond. You're not shining like you could. Oh, that's a good one. I just made that up.
Ooh,
So,
here you go.
but oh,
It's recorded. Yeah.
right. So she was supposed to be on the podcast, and in the long story short, this girl was going back and forth in emails asking me the same freaking questions over and over again. I was very, very detailed and very clear. I left absolutely no room for misunderstanding in my emails. I went over and over and over and over again and make sure. Still, I was just like, there were other details to it, but and long story short, she was such a frazzle brain that I was not comfortable sending anybody to her for coaching. So I just didn't have her on. And she was scheduled, but it was like, no, that's okay. And, I'm very picky, so I don't get to the point. That was earlier in the beginning of my podcasting. I vet people with a much harsher lens now than I did at the beginning.
Yeah.
Partly because because now I have people requesting to be on my show. But
Yeah.
also, I'm like, well, I already talked about this. I don't want to have the same conversation over and over again. That's not adding value, I really try to genuinely have different conversations. And even if it's on the same topic, it'll be from a different perspective, just so I can offer value. But I think all of you, when it comes to your content, all of you listeners, podcasters, when it comes to your content, I think that you should use my analogy. Whatever your topic is, and even again, if it's bow and arrow, can this guest, if you're going to have a guest, can this guest offer food, or are they just offering hot dogs? Now, some of you might have alternate between food and hot dogs on your episodes. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a way of doing things too. If you want to keep things a little lighter, I have no problem with keeping it all heavy, because I like to talk about the uncomfortable things. But that's one thing that I think that every single podcaster should take that principle and apply it to their podcast. And again, it's going to look different for you depending on your details, but it's the principle I'm talking about. It's something that all of you should do, because that is what I don't care what your topic is, that's what's going to make you stand out, is your value, not how frequently you go and not how many freaking awards you paid to have. But by the way, I heard your episode recently about that, and it cracked me up. I was going to say.
Yeah.
But technically, I don't have any awards yet, but I do have recognition. And honestly, I would rather have a free recognition than a paid reward.
Right. And that big thing behind that episode is that I just wanted people to equate the award to the value to the audience. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree.
It's great when people acknowledge you. It's great when people pull you on a list like you mentioned. That's beautiful. Yeah. Right? And you didn't chase it.
No.
But the idea that I can just pay for recognition and then use that as leverage, and I just paid money for that.
Yeah.
It's a transaction. That's all that is.
People do it all the time.
That's a different thing than what you talked about earlier on.
And I do want to.
So that's the idea.
I do also want to I mentioned FeedSpot, but I didn't mention Million Podcasts. They've recognized me quite a bit. So I think I think they deserve props because they've recognized me quite a bit.
Yeah.
They're trying to build a name for themselves, and I think they're doing it by recognizing people that'll recognize them back.
So Fatima, at the beginning, I mentioned your website as a guide for podcasters. Now, I would almost want to, because I don't want to chop off the conversation and cut this too short. So what I'm proposing to you, let's talk about a little bit here as we wrap up, but would you come back and focus more just on the website side of your podcast? Because I want to give it more time.
Yes.
Than, a quick overview. Is that okay with you, that we come back in the future and do a little bit more just specific to your website and how you designed it? Because I think it's a great model for podcasters. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, let's talk about it, because what I do like is how you've done the sorting feature where I can search as well of your topics, and how you've grouped them together. So I'll have a link for people to go directly to what we're talking about as we mention this. But can you just give us an overview before we leave?
Yes.
About how and why you set up your website this way?
Yes.
As a sample for people listening on how they can do their show better.
And
as well, talk about the address line, how you have the name of your website. Episode number. Mention that as well. But come on, give us an overview.
Just there's a lot I go over, so not to dive too deeply into it, but I have made my website the home of my podcast. My podcast is hosted on Buzzsprout. Love Buzzsprout. But I want traffic to my site. for several reasons because I'm also a coach. There's a lot of reasons, but I want traffic
Smart.
to my site. I want to own it all. So what I did was I created, I have a page for every single episode of my podcast. I just told y'all I'm over 100 right now. So, and some of those are double episodes, so it's actually way over. But I'm over 100 episodes right now, and it's just going to keep growing. I made sure I spoke to the company that hosts my website to make sure my website can grow like that. I did that before I did it. I was like, can I? Because I'm gonna have like 200 pages before you know it. So is that okay? How's that going to work? Is that going to slow things down? I made sure I had those conversations so I don't end up with surprises later. But we're good. But it's also because of how I design my pages that it works. So my pages are lightweight. And what I have at the top of every single page is I have a player. So you don't need to do anything but click on the page and click on the player and go about your day and listen. That's all you got to do. You don't need to sign into anything. You don't just play. Doesn't matter where you are on a phone or a
Smart.
computer, anything. Just hit play and you can listen. I try to make sure that there's no barrier to entry on any of it. So there's that. There's a blog underneath it. And then I have a transcript on every single page. But the transcript is not all laid out. You have to click on it to see it, but it's still evident for SEO. So, but here's the other thing that Dave was talking about. FatimaBey.com is my website. / pick a number, and that's the episode page. It's not MindShift Power Podcast - episode - some big long ass address. It's not. I did not do that. So the podcast, my podcast, has a permanent home on my website. Every single page has it. Every single episode has its own page. And if you know the episode number, which is in every title, I do that intentionally. So FatimaBey.com / 82. Well, 82A, because that's a particular episode. Then it takes you right to that episode. You can listen to it. It's just, I kept it really simple, user friendly. But having your podcast on your home on your website is a really big deal. Now, I'm not the only one that has players on the website, but I've never seen it the way I did it. But we could talk about that in another episode. I don't want to give away all my secrets for free, but
No.
but I can give some helpful tips and show some examples where they can. And everybody doesn't have to do it exactly how I did it. But I always tell people, look at the principles of what I did, not just what I did and how I did it.
Yeah.
You know, your colors might be different. You might keep things more simple than I do. That's okay. That's your style. For me, if you look at my website, everything's pretty. Their audience doesn't know this, but I make and design wedding gowns, so everything has to be pretty with me. That's just me. That's just my style. But yeah, I would absolutely love to come back and talk about my podcasting model, because quite frankly, I've seen others similar, but I haven't seen a single podcast on the planet that quite does what I did.
Yeah. I love your tab as well on your podcast where you can listen, and I see apps on here I've never heard of before where your podcast is on these players.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Oh
I've
yeah.
never seen these before. That's really amazing.
That's Dave's fault too. So MindShift Power Podcast is on over 60 platforms around the world.
Nice.
I made it a point when I started my podcast, if it's a platform, I need to be on it. That was it. I think I said this even in the last recording we had, but at the time I might have had like maybe 40 or something, but now I'm on 60.
Amazing.
And I'm not even on all the ones I want to be on, but I'm okay if I'm not on every single one in the world. But I am on every major one, but all these other smaller ones that I never heard of either. And then I found myself on them. Like for real, I just started doing searches for my podcast. I was like, oh, I'm on this one. Because what a lot of them do is they'll grab from Listen Notes and Apple and Spotify. For one of those three, they will usually, if they find it, they'll grab it and put it on their platform and say, look, you can listen to this. It makes sense. I think it helps. I think it just helps the whole podcast world evolve pretty well. I think it works. So I kind of like that they do that. But yeah, I'm on 60 plus platforms around the world. And Dave, who's been podcasting for 142 years, if you've never heard of somebody's platforms, I'm doing damn good.
Come on, that is amazing. Yeah, and if you want to see as you're listening and you're like, well, where am I on all these apps? And like, what are you guys talking about? Go to pod.link,
Yeah. Yeah.
pod.link, and just search for your podcast name, and you will find everybody that's pulled your show into their app. And you'll see apps you've never heard
Yep.
of
That's how I got
in
some of
countries
them.
all over the
Yeah.
world, right?
Yep.
And then you can just put those links like Fatima's done on her show, our podcast page, and just put them on there and give them up to people. And they're always adding new ones all the time. So if you're not on some of these, so compare Fatima's page, which is a great example, to your page and go, how come I'm not on these other 10 that Fatima's on? Then do your homework. And if you don't know how to find these, Fatima will definitely help you. She's a very helpful and kind person. So reach out to her and go, Fatima, how did you get on this app? Right? And then we'll send more people to you to come in and to communicate with you and check out your show as well. But I know Fatima will always help you. She won't ignore you. She's a great person. So.
I even send rejection letters. That means I don't ignore anybody.
I like it. Okay, so Fatima, you're going to come back. We'll do a more deep dive into your website, how you set it up. You built this yourself,
Yeah.
which I love. And there's a lot of things we can learn. If you want to get a sneak peek before Fatima comes back, we'll have a link for her website in the chat as well and in the show notes. Go check it out. I'm sure you're going to love it. And make some notes before you come back and listen to our next episode with Fatima, because she's going to answer them all. She's an amazing person, and she's just here to serve, right? And I want to celebrate with you, Fatima, as well. 2 years in podcasting. The stat I saw was 34% of podcasters get past episode 10.
What?
10. 34%.
Are
get
you
past episode
serious?
10. Yes.
Wow.
That's on podmatch.com/report. Go there and check that out. It is like the most heart-wrenching number I've seen.
That's
to see that
crazy.
many people not continue with podcasts. So to see you 2 years later, continuing to pour into your audience, your community, and these kids, no matter what age, the topics you cover, how you show up for your audience, it's just beautiful.
Thank you.
And all of the good things that are happening for you are the result of hard work,
Yeah.
dedication. You just don't give up. If you run up against the wall, you just build a bridge or build a ladder. You never get stuck by this stuff. You always see around corners, which I love. So it's an inspiration for everybody that's listening.
I do want to say one more thing. When it comes to, I just thought about this and I think it's important to mention. When it comes to guests, with over 100 episodes, there are maybe about 5 solo episodes and all of that. I don't know how many solo. I'm guessing about 5. I don't do too many solo, but I think it's good to break it up once in a while. Out of over 100 episodes, literally, I actually like every single guest that I've had, except one woman. That's it. There was one woman who was kind of bitchy, but everybody else I actually like. But that is a testament to the fact that I am so particular about who I have on in the first place. Mm-hmm. You are better off having 10 episodes of value and 10 people that follow you with rigor than 100 squirrel brains who are just looking at the next shiny object.
Right. Yeah. You are the gatekeeper for your audience. You're the ones who are going to bring value to your audience. You're not going to let just somebody come by because they're available, right? And they want to be on your show to talk about whatever. At the end of the day, if they don't bring value to your audience and they don't make your audience better, they shouldn't be on your show.
Yep.
Yeah. So Fatima, tell us again your website. Where do we go?
My website
Link in the show notes, everybody.
is fatimabey.com, FATIMABEY.com. And
the starting point for a new listener for your show, you got so many episodes. Is there hey, go listen here first. This is a great episode to start.
Episode number 76. So episode
76,
fatimabey.com/76 is
like
my precious Janaya. So she's a girl that I started coaching a couple of years ago. When I met her, she didn't believe that she had any value. She thought she was stupid, didn't think she was going to finish high school. Going to college was like, are you on crack? Are you crazy? That was a pipe dream. Like, what? That was out of range for her in her mindset at the time. At the time, she was dating a guy who's just a loser and an abusive, emotionally abusive. That's what she was when I met her. When I asked her what gifts and talents do you have, she looked at me like I had 6 heads and I asked her to pet one. Like, what are you talking about? Are you crazy? I don't have any gifts and talents. I don't have any value. She really believed that about herself. Fast forward to episode 76. She now understands her purpose and she's going to be a family attorney. She's in college, and the college that she's going to and the program she's entering is a program that will fast track her to law school, which is a block from her school right now. And
Come on.
not only that, but her episode 76 was recording during the school year earlier this year, or maybe late last year. This girl ended her first year of college on the freaking dean's list.
Come on.
On the dean's list. I am so proud of her and so happy. It makes me want to cry. I literally have cried about it because I see how far she's come, and I'm so proud of her. And to get this girl to a point where she's actually confident in herself and her future. Not that she doesn't have moments, because we all do, and that's normal, but she's going strong. The fact that this girl thought she was too dumb for college and it wasn't a reality for her, and she ended up the first year on the freaking dean's list. Like with a 3.8 or something like that.
Another proof, another example that you can count the number of seeds in an apple, but you can't count the number of apples in a seed.
Oh, I love that quote. I'm always talking about apple seeds. I love that.
The potential for that one seed to produce fruit. You pouring into one person and seeing them transform in real time from hopelessness to hope.
Yes.
You can't count the potential for this and who she's going to impact.
And likewise, Dave, you do this for podcasters. I am absolutely 1,000% positive that you have planted so many forests you don't even know about, because you've done it with me. You have planted so many seeds in my head. Literally every single time I talk to you, I'm writing notes. I'm not exaggerating. Y'all listen, I just wrote some notes before we started this conversation. This man is always looking to deposit in all of us. And I love it. And I appreciate you so much for it. And one day I'll probably be thanking you on a big stage. But right now we got this stage.
Oh, come on.
So thank you.
We do.
So
everyone go check out Fatima. There's great people in the world, and podcasting brings great people together. And if we can help each other to reach an audience and help that girl find purpose.
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah.
If we only did it for her and 100 episodes and all this work, website, podcasting, everything that you do, and if only one person's life was different, Fatima, I think you'd show up for that person. It's all worth it.
Another episode I think people should listen to is 82A. I tell my personal story for the first time in my entire life. I must warn you, though. I'm going to give you a warning. It's very raw.
Yeah.
Very raw. So I tell my story about how I moved from where I was born to New York and how we escaped. And I just told the truth about it. So I think people will get in maybe a little glimpse into why I'm so passionate about our youth and helping people. And again, those passions, whatever your passion is, even if it's just bow and arrow, whatever your passion is, that's what you need to go for and be 100% with it. Don't halfway water down anything, because then you're just another blah like everybody else.
Right. Everybody, Fatima Bey, go get your mindset shifted with some of the best people in podcasting on Fatima's show. Some great stories that are really going to help you. Share this with the young people in your life who are looking for some kind of point of reference when they don't have a good example at home, and they're looking for somebody, an adult, that pours into the youth. You just found her, Fatima Bey. Thank you so much for being on.
Thank you so much, Dave, for having me.
Hey, thanks for listening to the podcast all the way through to the end. I love having these great guest co-hosts on the show to share their podcast with you. You have some homework to do. What I'm asking of you is to go check out our featured guest co-host today. Go over and listen to their podcast. The links are always in the show notes. And I'd love for you to go and give them your love and support And I think if we can all do that for each other, podcasting will be a lot more fun for all of us. So it's time to do what you've asked others to do for you. It's time to do for this guest co-host. Links in the show notes. Go over and check out their show and leave them a review, do the follow, go listen to their episodes in full, the entirety of an episode, which again shows to the apps that it's a good podcast because you're going there and you're staying to the end. Probably one of the best ways you can help a podcaster grow their audience and be shown to more people is by simply going and listening wherever you listen to the very end, like you're doing right now here. This is the perfect way to signal to wherever you're listening on, this is a podcast worth promoting. And all of the apps want you to stay on as long as possible. So go over and listen to our guest co-host episode and leave them some feedback. If they have a buy me a coffee, send them a coffee. If they have a speak pipe, send them a voice message. If they have an email, send them an email. If they're on Instagram, send them a direct message. Do something to support our guest co-hosts. They've given up their time to be here with you, to be here with me, and we can give that back to them with time and attention, our love, our support. Thank you for doing all that for me as well. Here on the How to Podcast series, we'll talk to you soon for our next episode.